Future Silver here. Before we begin, I wanted to start this off with a moment of silence for the unfortunate passing of Maruki's English voice actor Billy Kometz. He voiced iconic characters like Yosuke from JoJo's, Ferdinand von Aegir from Fire Emblem, and so many more. His work touched the lives of millions across the world, and he will never be forgotten. Rest in peace, Billy. And now back to Present Silver. Hey people, Silver here, bringing you some pretty overdue content. Yes, this channel is still going. Yes, the four of us boys are still alive, just not in the inside. Before we begin, let's get arguably the most important thing out of the way. We already know who Best Girl is in this game, so I don't even need to say it. And if you think otherwise, you are objectively wrong. Sorry, that's just the way it is. I don't make the rules. And with that out of the way, let's get right to it. Persona is a game with so much heart, life, and energy dripping from its orifices that it cured my depression and chronic back pain. The fifth installment of the franchise has spawned out from Shin Megami Tensei, or however the fuck you pronounce that. It is a fun and engaging JRPG, and unlike every other JRPG, this one is actually good. You play as Joker, victim of cancel culture, and are forced to relocate to the distant land of some place Japan to be placed in a last chance school, and are warned that if you get into any trouble, your future will be defaulted, just like my student loans. So understandably, with the help of a talking cat, Joker sets off on a grand adventure with other misfit high schoolers to defy society, stick it to the man, and with the power of Satan and America, shoot God in the face to save Christmas. And in Royal, they took things to the next level by letting you shoot God again, but this time to save your Valentine's dates. If that fun and engaging anti-Bible gameplay sounds appealing to you, then oh boy, do I have the game for you. Persona 5 Royal is a game, a very long game. The length time runs the risk of a game forgetting itself in a convoluted bundle of unnecessary filler, recycled content, bland, unexplored characters, and unrefined storylines that ultimately leads to an underwhelming conclusion. We see this all the time in other JRPGs to the point that I genuinely believe they do this shit on purpose. How then can a game this huge, this jam-packed with content, stay true to itself, have such a rich cast of relatable characters, deliver one of the most mesmerizing experiences a game could ever hope to achieve, while maintaining a high level of polish, quality, and above all, fun, while shackled to the JRPG genre and its cliches and tropes? Consider this the first part of a two-part series, since as to truly evaluate Royal as a whole, I do want to do an in-depth Joseph Anderson-style analysis on the entirety of the third semester, discuss the impact that the shift in narrative focus to be character-driven versus plot-driven has on the overall narrative experience, why the additions of Kasumi, Dr. Maruki, I cry now every time I see his name, and Akechi fix what was fundamentally flawed from base Persona, and why and how all these seemingly independent factors coalesce into one of the greatest conclusions in all the video games. Yeah, the third semester demands a standalone video, so I'm gonna go ahead and do that. And also, I need a separate video to share my 43 dissertation as to why Kasumi is Best Girl. Persona at its core is a pretty good story told incredibly well. Unlike something like Game of Thrones, the show, where it's an alright story told with the care of a fucking coconut, most JRPGs tend to be ambitious, grandiose even, in their scope. This means they must shove metric tons of content and gameplay elements down your throat, often to the detriment of the experience. And if these elements don't gel well for the player or aren't even fun, which is more often than not the case, it comes off as unfocused, bloated, and messy. Even JRPGs I love, like Tales of Arise and Final Fantasy VII, have these problems. They're basically built into the formula at this point. What Persona does well compared to other JRPGs is that the intersection of these elements isn't necessarily added on top of one another, often to the detriment of one or multiple elements, but are instead integrated seamlessly where they can build off of one another, the sum of the whole greater than the parts thing. The elements I'm referring to, of course, are the standard you'll find in other similar games, the life sim portion, the dungeon crawling, the story chapters, to name the major few. Barring a few exceptions in Persona like test days or dedicated story sections, or that one fucking week our cat Morgana runs away, and the already weakest arc in the entire game, with the worst dungeon, also hashtag fuck this green robot. Anyone that's played Persona knows exactly what I'm talking about. You have full control and freedom to do whatever it is you want at your own pace. Want to eat hamburgers to level up your gut so you can stop being such a bitch and ask Makoto out? You can do that. Want to go home and help Best Boy Sorijo run the cafe? You can do that. Want to either explore a dungeon to progress the story or spend an afternoon making Molotov cocktails? The sky is the limit in this Russian simulator. The full freedom to decide how you want to prioritize your time is the name of the game. Bonding with characters, doing side quests, or leveling up your characters makes for an extremely addictive gameplay loop that is handled very well. The most important factor to making this full freedom, I say that in quotations, work is the choice to limit player actions to basically 2 activities a day. This, in conjunction to every major arc having a concrete deadline to complete, makes for a more linear, story-driven experience, which helps to prevent the feeling of repetitiveness and grindiness other JRPGs and RPGs to that degree struggle with. This forces the player to be mindful and strategic on how they spend their valuable in-game real-world time. All this culminates into a gameplay loop that is borderline addicting due to its engaging nature that rewards players who play the life sim portion smartly by providing immense benefits to the combat portions of the dungeon crawling in Persona. So, in other words, going on dates with Kasumi isn't a chore or a waste of time. It's optimal to the gaming experience, I promise you. Don't misunderstand, I love the story of Persona 5 Royal as much as the next person, and while the story is arguably what sold me on the game, not to mention considering that the opening act with Kamoshida is the greatest first chapter I've ever experienced in any video game, and I've played a bunch, but what kept me glued to the edge of my seat was the intersectionality of all the elements I detailed above, and you'll be hard-pressed to find a game that does it better. The juxtaposition of the different experiences of being able to study in a diner on a cloudy day for extra social stats, or go see a movie with my talking cat after being in the metaphysical cognitive world fighting shadows with what basically boils down to fucking stands from JoJo's. That is what I call fucking gameplay. It's really hard to put into words how engrossing this makes every action, even mundane ones, feel in the Persona universe. I love the story of Persona with all my heart, but the dungeon design, the combat, the life sim portion, and how all these elements play off of one another and enhance each other just glues everything together so perfectly and is what made me come back for more each time. Everything I talked about just now is great and all. Well, obviously I think that since I'm making this goddamn video to begin with. But what, in conjunction to everything I just said, elevates the entire Persona experience far and above any similar games, it's in its presentation. I've seen countless people make videos about style over substance, substance over style, etc, etc. But in my opinion, Persona 5 Royal doesn't have to sacrifice one or the other. I feel like, in my opinion, it has it all. Incredible story, 1,000,001 things to do within the game to make you feel you're genuinely a part of the world with all its many moving pieces, and is by far one of, if not the most stylish games you will ever come across, jam-packed with at least a minimum 100 hours of unique gameplay. Hell, even the story structure has fucking style. Starting off the game to where the midpoint reversal occurs in the story, that's fancy talk for when something derails the protagonist and thus adding more obstacles to overcome. We know off the bat eventually we get caught in the casino heist, and it's up to us and Sai to piece together all the events that led us to that turning point. That's intrigue, a bit of mystery, a bit of spice, a little bit of everything nice. It makes the journey of learning secondhand about the rise and eventual fall of the Phantom Thieves more entertaining and fun to experience. I'd gush a little bit more about the writing process. I am a Brandon Sanderson fan after all, but I want to talk about bright colors. Every scene from Royal is bright, bold, confident, and just so full of personality it's almost impossible not to get hyped out of every scene. The wonderful visual energy and electrifying soundtrack will carry the most casual player to majority of the dungeons, especially if things start to feel a tiny bit grindy. It's hard to be upset about a random encounter when it sounds as electrifying as this.
Alright, the first move is ours! Persona!
If my non-gamer but anime-loving roommate, Tropical, can get obsessed and drop 100 hours into this game, it's doing something right. He describes it best. Persona is like playing an anime. And as an anime dweeb, such as myself, gaming does not get better than that. The entire time you're playing, you'll also be fortunate enough to listen to one of the greatest soundtracks ever produced for a video game. Seriously, this music is a gift from God. From a presentation standpoint, Persona Royal just knocks it out of the park in absolutely every department imaginable, so much so that few games could ever hope to match or surpass what Persona 5 Royal has been able to accomplish. Royal, in a nutshell, is the JRPG genre at its absolute finest, combining confidence and style with engrossing storytelling alongside perfectly conjoined gameplay mechanics that all serves to add exponentially to the overall gaming experience. Can you tell how much I love this game? I went back and forth on it, and while I've dropped more hours in other games, Skyrim, Borderlands, but in pure enjoyment alone, I feel Persona 5 Royal may be my favorite game of all time. It really has it all: incredibly rich world filled with wonderful cast of complex characters, important themes of overcoming adversity, staying true to oneself, and for the most part an interesting overarching villain to take us through the majority of the story. However, here's where most people's major gripes with Persona, specifically 5, come into play. Barring some of the good ones, a good portion of the villains in Persona can be best described as Saturday cartoon evil. If only we could have ended the story with an incredibly complex antagonist, one who foils perfectly to the Phantom Thief, someone complex, someone you struggle fighting with because you completely understand his views and perspective, because he genuinely cares about everyone. If only Persona had that. Of course, I jest, you've been japed. Persona Vanilla may have dropped the ball on that, but oh my god, does Royal deliver the goods with Maruki. Again, I get sad every time I say his name now. And unfortunately, that's where this video will end for the moment. As I said in the beginning, I want to talk about the third semester in a separate video. This script and video here originally started with the third semester in mind, but the more I wrote, the more I analyzed, the more I realized that the third semester, Maruki, best girl, best psychopath, deserve their own standalone and longer video. I want to give them the due diligence and respect they deserve, as their inclusions elevate what was already an incredibly good game to one of the greatest pieces of gaming ever created, and one of the greatest pieces we will ever see in gaming. Many thanks for watching. If you're new around here and want to see more, please consider subscribing for more YouTube content, and leave a like and comment if you really enjoyed the video, or leave a dislike if you really did not like the video. That's perfectly fine too. It's not like you'll ever see how many dislikes this video has nowadays, haha. We apologize again for being away for as long as we have, but fear not, we are back and we are hot and ready to make more content for you all. Me up first, and then some of the other boys will be coming in with their own content. In the meantime, we have plenty of other great videos already on this channel for you to enjoy. Feel free to check out our Discord and Twitter, links in the description down below. This is Silver, until next time.